Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Joanna Eliasol Vicente, and I'm here to talk about our next chapter in CED 252, which is all about administration of community development programs. For our report outline, we will have definition of terms, philosophy of administration, the functions, roles, and skills of a manager, and managerial functions. To start, the definition of terms. Administration is the organization and direction of human and material resources to achieve desired ends. It is the activities of groups cooperating to accomplish common goals. Whereas in management, it may be defined as the art of securing maximum results with a minimum of effort so as to secure maximum prosperity and happiness for both employer and employee and give the public the best possible service. Philosophy is the love for wisdom. It is the study to understand how and why people do certain things and how to live a good life. And all of these things are actually the brains of the organization. So we will now move on to the philosophy of administration. Philosophy is based on the following key points which administration believes in, and these are cost effectiveness, human relations and good moral, execution and control of work plan, effective communication, delegation of responsibility, and flexibility in certain situations. Let's first take a look at cost effectiveness. In the administration, the quality, quantity, timing, and cost of the work is necessary to reach the objectives of the enterprise. These are interrelated factors which must be given constant attention. And for example, if the resources of health, work, trained person, and finance were unlimited, the need for constant attention to these factors would not be so great. But the limitation in these factors are a major obstacle to greatly improved health in the world today. We must monitor our resources carefully to accomplish as much as possible with what we have available so as to achieve the goal of achieving health for all. The execution and control of work plan. Execution process involves coordinating people and resources, as well as integrating and performing the activities of the project in accordance with the project plan. This is composed of two processes. One is performing required tasks for project, the other one is monitoring and controlling of this performance. So you now have the initial or the initiative of doing a program or a project. Now you have to plan and design and execute, and at the same time after that monitor and control, and you will now have the output or the achievement of your objective. Now this is known as the execution and control of work plan because it does not represent a blind implementation of the initial plan, but rather a cyclic process which is cleared from above diagram, in which all processes are interdependent. This consists of the processes used to complete the work defined in the project plan to accomplish the project's requirement. Execution process involves coordinating people and resources, as well as integrating and performing the activities of the project in accordance with the project plan. Another is delegation of responsibility. The process of delegation involves assignment of task, creation of responsibility, creation of accountability, assignment of authority. Now, delegation is the assignment of any responsibility or authority to another person. Normally, it's from a manager to a subordinate. It is to carry out specific activities, and it is one of the core concepts of management leadership. However, the person who delegated the work remains accountable for the outcome of the delegated work. Delegation empowers a subordinate to make decisions. That is, it is a shifting of decision-making authority from one organizational level to a lower one. Next is human relations and good morale. Since the function of administration is to attain an established objective through the management of people, thus administration is deeply concerned with human relations. Good morale is essential for the success of any undertaking, and morale is affected by financial and non-financial factors. Financial factors, or the amount of remuneration of each individual, should be fair as compared to the other staff in the same organization or institutions. Among non-financial factors contributing to the good morale is a personal satisfaction by knowing that the job is done well and the satisfaction of being associated with an institution of which one should be proud of. Sa akin, effective ito, no, for me to really do good or to really do better. There are four simple tips that I have seen from the net, no, to boost employees' morale. These are streamline work based on skills, no, so train them well for professional development. Third is to recognize and reward employees to boost employees' morale, and be open to feedbacks. This I think is one of a good way in developing people in the organization. Next is having effective communication. Effective communication is essential so that staff must be adequately and correctly informed about the plan, methods, schedule, problem, events, and progress. It is necessary that the information must be passed on to next without any misinterpretation or misunderstanding. For effective communication, it requires two-way passage downward and upward within the organization. Another guiding philosophy in administration is having flexibility in certain situations. The more flexible the organization becomes, the better it responds to the change. Firms which are flexible facilitate creativity, innovations, and speed, all this being included into the organizational and coordination processes. And flexibility is a competitive edge. Moving on, we will now discuss the functions, roles, and skills of a manager. Let me quote Martin Luther King on being a leader. The task of the leader is to get his people from where they are to where they have not been. It's leading to success. Now let's take a look at these leaders. Who are the so-called managers? An individual engaged in management activities is called a manager. Managers supervise, sustain, uphold, and assume responsibility for the work of others in his or her own group, team, department, or the organization in general. It is therefore safe to assume that organizational success is dependent on managers who practice optimal utilization of their human and material resources and who encourage high levels of performance, effectiveness, and efficiency among the individuals under their care. The function of a manager is primarily to ensure efficient operations within an organization, department, or team. There are three levels of management, namely the top-level management, middle-level management, and lower-level management. As an overview, the top-level management, they make decisions affecting the entirety of the firm. The middle-level management, on the other hand, are responsible for carrying out the goals set by the top management. The lower-level management are responsible for the daily management of line workers, the employees who produce the product or the service that they offer. So in detail, let's start with the top-level management. Top-level managers or top managers, also called as senior management or executives. These are the leaders of the organization which are setting in top-level management. These individuals are at the top one or two levels in an organization and hold titles such as Chief Executive Officer, Chief Financial Officer, Chief Operational Officer, Chief Information Officer, Chairperson of the Board, President, Vice President, or Corporate Head. These top-level managers make decisions affecting the entirety of the firm. Top managers do not direct the firm's day-to-day activities. Instead, they set goals for the organization and direct the company to achieve them. Top managers are also ultimately responsible for the organization's performance, and often, these managers have obvious jobs. And top-level managers do require having excellent conceptual and decision-making skills. Next, we do have the middle-level management. Middle-level managers or middle managers are those in the levels below top managers. Middle managers' job titles include general manager, plant manager, regional manager, and divisional manager. Middle-level managers are responsible for carrying out the goals set by top management. They do so by setting goals for their departments and other business units. Middle managers control, motivate, and assist first-line managers in achieving business objectives. Middle managers also communicate upward by offering suggestions and feedback to top managers. In addition, because middle managers are more involved in the day-to-day workings of a company, they may provide valuable information to top managers to help improve the organization's bottom line. Middle-level managers' job perfection depends very much on this communication and interpersonal skills. The lower level management, on the other hand, is the first level managers, which are also called as first line managers, shop level managers, or supervisors. These managers have job titles such as office manager, shift supervisor, department manager, foreperson, crew leader, and store manager. First line managers are responsible for the daily management of line workers, the employees who produce the product or offer the services. There are first-line managers in every work unit in the organization. These are the managers that most employees interact with daily, and if the managers perform poorly, employees may also perform poorly, may lack motivation, or may leave the company. Although first-level managers typically do not set goals for the organization, they have a powerful influence on the company. A first-level manager requires technical skills and knowledge for the particular work he supervises. To illustrate the roles of a manager, I would like to use the MINTZBERG'S management roles concept. As a manager, you probably fulfill many different roles every day. For instance, as well as leading your team, you might find yourself resolving a conflict, negotiating new contracts, representing your department in a board meeting, or approving a request for new system acquisitions. It's just put simply that you're constantly switching roles as tasks, situations, and expectations change. Management expert and Professor Henry Mintzberg, okay, recognized this, no? And he argued that there are 10 primary roles or behaviors that can be used to categorize a manager's different functions. And these are figurehead, leader, liaison, monitor, disseminator, spokesperson, entrepreneur, disturbance handler, resource allocator, and negotiator. And this is further categorized into interpersonal roles, informational roles, and decisional roles. For the interpersonal management roles, the managerial roles in this category involve providing information and ideas. Figurehead, as a manager, you have social, ceremonial, and legal responsibilities. You're expected to be a source of inspiration. People look up to you as a person with authority and as a figurehead. As a leader, this is where you provide leadership for your team, your department, or perhaps your entire organization, and it's where you sort of manage the performance and responsibilities of everyone in the group. As a liaison managers must communicate with internal and external contacts. You need to be able to network effectively on behalf of your organization. Roles are also classified as informational management roles. The managerial roles in this category involve processing of information. They monitor, and in this role, you regularly seek out information related to your organization and industry, looking for relevant changes in the environment. You also monitor your team in terms of both their productivity and their well-being. As a disseminator, this is where you communicate potentially useful information to your colleagues and your team. And as a spokesperson, managers represent and speak for their organization. In this role, you're responsible for transmitting information about your organization and its goals to the people outside of it. For the last classification of roles, the decisional roles. The managerial roles in this category involve using information. Entrepreneur, as a manager, you create and control change within the organization. This means solving problems, generating new ideas, and implementing them. As a disturbance handler, when an organization or team, okay, hits an unexpected roadblock, it's the manager who must take charge. You also need to help mediate disputes within it. As a resource allocator, you'll also need to determine where organizational resources are best applied. This involves allocating funding as well as assigning staff and other organizational resources. And lastly, as a negotiator, you may be needed to take part in and direct important negotiations within your team, department, or organization. So these are the different classifications of management roles, okay, conceptualized by MINTZBERG. So how do we apply, or where this MINTZBERG's management roles concept is applicable? You can use MINTZBERG's 10 management roles model as a frame of reference when you're thinking about developing your own skills and knowledge. This includes developing yourself in areas that you consciously or unconsciously shy away from. First, you have to examine how much time you currently spend on each managerial role. Do you spend most of your day leading, managing conflict, or disseminating information? In these concepts or in these questions, it will help you decide which areas to work on first or prioritize. So we will now have managerial functions. No? I have here a picture of a beautiful house. Now, if you want to have that kind of house, you have to start somewhere. You have to know what will be your plan of action in achieving that particular objective of yours, which is to build up that house. So given that we do have our objective, we have to know the managerial functions wherein, okay, we can go to the path in achieving that particular objective. So these are planning, organization, staffing, leading, and control. We will now have the first managerial function, which is planning. As definitions, planning is the most basic element in all managerial functions. This will highlight managerial innovation. It is a rational approach to pre-selected objectives, and planning is a process which involves selecting of enterprise objectives and departmental goals from the alternative future courses of action and determining ways of achieving them. It is the process of deciding what objectives to pursue during the time period and what to do to achieve those objectives. Now let's take a look at the concept of planning in relation to the other managerial functions. Okay, we have said that managerial functions are the following: planning, organizing, staffing, leading or directing, and controlling. In organizing, the overview is what kind of organization structure to have. Okay, and you choose the correct people and when to get them in terms of staffing. Leading and directing is on how to influence people to work in achieving the objectives, and establishing a standards of control is one major part of controlling as managerial function. But as you can see, planning in every step of the way is included, which means that when you organize, when you do your staffing, leading or directing and controlling, okay, planning is part and parcel of each managerial function. There are different forms of planning. You have strategic planning, tactical planning, and contingency planning. If I'm not mistaken, one of our classmates before discussed this in detail. Okay, now for strategic planning, as an overview, this is a broad set of plans, and it's for long-range planning, and it has goal setting, and it is done by the top managers most of the time. The tactical planning are specific, short range, and they have objective identification, no? And this is done by the lower managers. For the contingency plan, okay, backup plans in case primarily plans fail is significant due to unavoidable economic changes and environmental conditions. So we will now proceed to the next managerial functions, which are organizing and staffing. We already know that after carefully planning, no, and having the output of blueprints, there should be an organization that will handle the people who will work on the plan or in accomplishing the plan. So it's very important that we really have to plan. As I am telling this one, it means that in every managerial function, planning is there. So let's take a look, no, first at what is organizing. A plan is required to define the structure of the organization, the authority, relationships, and the proper scope for each of the newly created unit arising from the implementation of an accepted plan. It is also defined as assembling and coordinating the human, financial, physical, and informational and other resources needed to achieve goals. And staffing, as one of the managerial functions, involves manning the organization structure through proper and effective selection, appraisal, and development of personnel to fill the roles assigned to the employers or workforce. It is a plan that helps in determining what kind of personal qualifications are needed in selecting the right people in the right positions and at the right time. So in comparing the differences between organizing and staffing, I have here this table. So for the definition, organizing is the deployment of organizational resources to achieve strategic goals. In staffing, it's the manning the organization structure through proper and effective selection, appraisal, and development of the personnel to fill the roles assigned to the employers. The objective of organizing comparing to staffing is that in organizing, it creates an organization structure of all resources for the attainment of organizational goals. Whereas in staffing, it is to recruit, select, and develop the right and best fit personnel to perform specific jobs or positions in the organization. The factors involved in the area of function in organizing is in the internal and external factors. But for staffing, it only involves the internal factors, no? The resources involved in organizing is related to all resources, may it be human, finances, information, networking, etc. But for staffing, it's only for the human resource in a single organization. So let's have in details, okay, organizing as one of the managerial functions. So in my succeeding slides, I will discuss the fundamentals of organizing, the vertical structure of organizing, and the horizontal structure of organizing. So to start, the fundamentals of organizing, according to Duff in 2016, strategy defines what to do. Organizing defines how to do it. Structure is a powerful tool for reaching strategic goals, and a strategy's success often is determined by its fit with the organizational structure. So this is an example of an organizational chart. I got this from Google. Okay, the UPLB Office of the Vice Chancellor for Community Affairs Organizational Chart. So an organizational chart, as we all know, will provide us an overall look of the structure within an organization. Okay, so as you can see, each block will actually represent different positions and delegations. And this will actually give us an idea on the lines of authority, okay, to whom they are reporting to, kumbaga, and the levels of management. So as you go down the structure, okay, the lower the management level or managerial function is. This is another example of an organizational chart, no? But as you can see, okay, Google company hierarchy do have a different structure from what we have shown in the previous slide. Okay, they do have this arrow going up and down and then having to deal with the top level of management. So later on we will understand how this happens and what would be the effects and consequences of this. Another fundamental of organizing is on how people work in an organization. So this is in the concepts of differentiation and integration. So differentiation is when an organization is composed of different units that work on a different tasks. This will actually include people working, having division of labor based on their specialization, like in factories, and in order to get the full product or item, okay, we have to have integration. It recognizes the differentiated units within the organization which cannot be performed completely independently. So we have to sort of coordinate everything, okay, in order to produce a quality product or a quality output. Okay, we just have to remember that the higher the level of differentiation, the greater is the need for integration. Another topic in organizing as a managerial function is its vertical or having a vertical structure. One example of this is the tall hierarchical organizational structure. Generally, the larger the company, the more complex its structure. For example, the U.S. military with its many members and long chain of command is a very tall organization. In tall structures, several layers of management come between frontline employees and upper management. Since tall organizations generally have fewer employees reporting to each manager, the managers can provide greater supervision. So as an example of a tall, narrow organizational structure, I have here in the diagram a community organizational chart example. So as you can see, the top level of management is here, and the middle level of management is here with the second level and the third level, and below them would be the lower level management. Okay, which says that the lower level management will report to the middle level management, and the middle level management will report to the top level management, vertically upwards. On the other hand, there is so-called horizontal organizational structure, which is also called as the flat hierarchical organizational structure or the wide base, no? The flat organizational structure is defined as an entity where the top management is in direct contact with the frontline salespeople, employees at the floor levels, as well as the customers. In such an organization, leadership is decentralized, and there is no role and responsibility of the mid-management level. The purpose of a flat organizational structure is to have very little hierarchy so that everyone becomes adept at handling whatever work comes their way. In a flat organizational structure, the manager has more responsibility as the number of people directly supervised by him is significant, and these people at lower levels rely on him for support, guidance, help, and direction. This type of structure is created to empower employees so they can take an independent decision. This structure is best for small and startup organizations as it is designed to minimize bureaucracy. Facebook is an example of flat or wide organizational structure in an organization. No, in Facebook, no, I got this structural organizational chart, no, from Google. Now everyone's very mission driven in Facebook. The mission at Facebook is bringing the world closer together. Employees at Facebook are passionate about connecting people via the platform, and it also plays out on how they interact at the office. So Facebook has a flat organizational structure. A flat organizational structure, also known as horizontal organizational structure, is where there are fewer managers and supervisors in relation to lower level employees, and where employees have more freedom and authority to do their jobs. The benefits of a flat structure is that employees have more power in decision making, and there is a greater opportunity for cross-functional communication. At Facebook, even an intern can email a senior leader and receive a reply. That's something that wouldn't happen at a company with a vertical structure where directly emailing a senior could be frowned upon. This flat organization style is also visible in the office. Facebook isn't that kind of a company where employees dream of having a corner office. People in leadership positions share desk space with team members. This is actually the same concept of organizational structure in Google, which I have shown you a while ago. There are positive and negative consequences in both structures, no? In contrast to tall structures, in flat structures, managers tend to have more employees reporting to them. As a result, managers can't always provide extensive supervision, leading employees to come up with more solutions on their own. Thus, employees benefit from more freedom in a flat structure. However, they may get more confused as to what exactly their role in the company is. Now, in larger companies with their tall organizational structures, they often provide employees with more direction, giving employees a greater sense of job security and understanding of what their roles are in the company. Tall structures are particularly beneficial for new or unskilled employees who can use guidance and direction to help them complete their task. This is why most factories and other firms using low-skilled workers prefer a tall management structures. We will now move on to the next managerial function, which is staffing. In discussing, the outline will be as follows. It has three things. We have recruitment, selection, and workforce reduction. So let's start with recruitment, no? It is the development of a pool of applications for jobs in an organization. So as we all know, staffing will be related to acquiring human resources suited for the job, okay, and be able to contribute in the achievement of our goals. Now, the thing is, there is internal recruitment and there is an external recruitment, and there is positive and negative sides of it, no? For the internal recruitment, no, these are employers. The positive thing would be that employers know their employees and employees know their organization. So, which means that if you will give them, for example, change in task or delegation, okay, they will be able to know how to adapt to it, no? Because they already know the system in the organization. However, okay, to some, um, probably it will be a negative thing because you might be dealing with people transferring to a specific position or task which they are not comfortable with, so they lack skills or talent for that. So, an example of this would be in promoting other people. So, minsan, okay, ipopromote natin kasi masyadong matagal na siya, kasi kumbaga for loyalty. Unfortunately, minsan pag kung saan natin siya dadalhin, hindi naman niya yun yung forte niya. Pero mas mataas kasi yung benefits. Okay? And sometimes naman, mas maganda ring gawin ito para yung retention factor ay mas mataas. Hindi sila mag-iisip na lumipat ng company or ng organization because they are being compensated well and enough. Now, for external recruitment, this is a very good idea. Why? It's not just adding up to the workforce, no? But it's also introducing, no, new people and new ideas, having new experiences from other companies going to your company. So in recruiting, you have to know how to select them properly. No, it builds on recruiting and involves decisions about whom to hire, no, for the right job, for the right task. And normally in the selection process, there are procedures. They have applications and CVs, interviews, reference checks, background checks, personality test, drug test, cognitive ability test, reform can test, integrity test, and so on. Maraming mga test na binibigay. Pero sabi nga, depende sa objective ng company o ng organization ang pagpili doon sa i-hire natin na mga workforce. So, minsan mas nagva-value yung knowledge and experience ng isang tao, pero sometimes, no, merong mga companies na ang vina-value ay character, personality, and yung background niya, no? Kasi minsan magaling, okay, maganda ang credentials, pero nagkaroon pala ng problema on drugs, no? O kaya may problema sa personality. So basically, it will be the selection process will be dependent on the objectives and the nature of organization which they want to sort of uphold. So another concern in staffing is the workforce reduction, no? So kung meron tayong concept kanina ng retention, give them enough benefits, promote them, professional growth, and so on, no? Just for those good people to be retained or to stay in our organization. But there are times that there's a need for a reduction in the workforce. These are the demand for certain employees rises and falls, no? So employees simply do not perform at a level required to justify continued employment. That is the time we need to sort of stop their hiring or their contract. And examples of this, as I have told you, layoff, outplacement, and termination. Probably because of age, probably because of the lack of skills and talent, and probably because of some behavior or attitudinal problems. So these are the factors wherein, okay, we need to focus on in terms of workforce reduction factor. To sum it up, organizing and staffing are managerial functions that usually follows planning. Planning provides the blueprint and desired outcome or goal. Organizing and staffing deploys resources to achieve a goal. A city worker must be able to organize and deploy all resources and bring the right and fit person to perform tasks in order to achieve the organizational objectives. Okay, so let's not proceed to the next managerial function, which is leading and directing. So we've already discussed planning, organizing, and staffing. Now, what do you mean by leading or directing in an organization? So leading is stimulating high performance by members of the organization. This function is getting members of the organization on board with your plan. Normally, this means connecting with direct reports or teammates on a personal level. Understanding what drives individuals within the team allows a manager to design strategies around motivating, incentivizing, mobilizing, and arousing a desire to contribute. Directing is that interpersonal aspect of management which deals directly with influencing, guiding, supervising, motivating subordinate for the achievement of organizational goals. Direction has following elements. Number one, supervision, which implies overseeing the work of subordinates by their superiors. It is the act of watching and directing work and workers. Motivation means inspiring, stimulating, or encouraging the subordinates with zeal to work. Positive, negative, monetary, or non-monetary incentives may be used for this purpose. Leadership may be defined as the process by which manager guides and influences the work of subordinates in desired direction. For example, for Anne Kai, a CEO of Xerox, the key to successful leadership is communicating with the company's most important constituents. Those are employees and customers. And of course, communications. It is the process of passing information, experience, opinion, etc. from one person to another. It is a bridge of understanding. So this will actually sort of bring all the employees or the human resources or the workforce in the organization having to go in a path leading to achievement of goals. So ang next question natin would be, paano ba tayo susundin ng ating mga subordinates? Okay? Where do we get our power from? Okay, in order for them to be led or in order for them to follow. Sabi nga ni John Maxwell, leaders become great not because of their power, but because of their ability to empower others. So, there are different sources of power to lead. These are coercive power, charisma power, expertise power, reward power, and legitimate power. Coercive power is the threat of punishment to influence others. People comply with the manager using coercive power because they are compelled to avoid punishment. So, yun yung no work, no pay basis natin na kadalasan ay natatakot yung mga tao na umabsent kahit may sakit na sila, papasok pa rin kasi there is no work, no pay basis. Now, in terms of charisma power, it is the ability to motivate others through the personal characteristics of the manager. Followers are attracted to the aura of the individual and often work to emulate the behaviors they see. No? One of the researchers, Makobi, argues that charisma is the most powerful form of influence because it drives motivation from the deepest part of the follower's emotions. Under this form of influence, followers want to do more than expected. Let's say, for example, the charisma power that includes a pre-game locker room speech or taking an employee out to lunch to listen to their story or possessing the personality traits that people find attractive. That's humor, emotions, and empathy. So, minsan din, though, okay, it can be abused and misused. Okay? So, when you talk about expertise power, no, it is the ability to influence through the possession of knowledge. This knowledge can be an understanding of a process, a talent, skill, or capability to complete a certain task. Expertise power becomes relevant in contextual situations and can be garnered through reputation, credentials, or past performances. Kung baga, they will have trust in you because you had experience on this and you are an expert on this. Now, The reward power is the ability to influence others through the control of resources that others find value in. Our understanding of reward power has advanced by the work of Skinner and the operant conditioning, no, he found in pigeons and in rats. So what he found in animals is that positive stimuli or rewards encourage positive behaviors, and negative stimuli, like for example withholding rewards or punishment, discourage negative behaviors. So dito sa academe, ang napapansin ko as an organization, so for example, when you publish a research in a reputable journal, then you will be given a reward, no? If you are good in teaching, and if you do have some other extracurricular activities and merits, then you will be promoted. So this is one example of a reward power, a source of system in order to lead. Now, legitimate power. Now, legitimate power derives from the position that a manager has within the organization. The power to make decisions and direct personnel through bureaucratic processes is the source of power. Legitimate power is a result of being appointed, elected, or selected to a position of authority. People comply with legitimate power because they understand and respect the general hierarchy of organizations. So, dahil sa yung na-elect, kahit na ayaw natin siya, so, ang tendency is just to follow. And the tendency is just to sort of do, okay, the things that he wants to do. Okay? So, alam na natin kung anong ang example. So, for example, ayaw natin kay BBM as president, wala tayong magagawa sa ang elected president. So, what we can do is just to comply with his laws and with his governance, and not being sort of a negative factor in achieving his goal for the economy or for the government. Okay, so the last managerial function which I'll be discussing with you right now is all about controlling. Sabi nga natin sa mga previous reports, no, if you have a good grasp of your organization, okay, you'll be able to achieve your goal. So control is installing processes to guide the team towards goals and monitoring performance towards goals. The purpose of the control function is to ensure that the organization makes progress towards the established goals. This is done prior to implementation of the game plan, as a manager anticipates with what might go wrong. Control is done during the process of implementation, as the manager monitors the progress and makes changes as needed. As such, the control function of management is highly intertwined with the planning phase. The guides that managers use to ensure progress and the mechanisms used to monitor progress are areas that need a direct consideration before the plan implementation begins. There are 4 steps in the control process. These are setting the standard, measuring performance, compare performance against the standard, and make adjustments as necessary. The control process begins with the standard or goal to reach. This portion of the control process is done during the planning phase of management. Measuring performance is also a step that needs to be planned for during the first phase of the management process. The question of how will I keep track once I begin my plan? Monitoring performance might include creating a dashboard to monitor performance indicators, but it might also include periodic check-ins with members of the organization to see how they are handling the implementation of the plan. Step 3 is just simply comparing the actual performance to the standard value. Step 4 is a reboot to the planning phase. If the progress was not up to the standard, so as there's a need for adjustment, no? The flip side of step 4, though, is that even if progress is made towards a goal, no, adjustments might still need to be made, such in the cases of burnouts among employees. The manager should recognize this and commits resources or organizing, no, to motivate or lead again the sales team to keep pushing. In this way, the control function cycles back to the other functions of management occurs. You can control an organization in these 3 types of control. Okay, one is bureaucratic control. Bureaucratic control is an official policy or rule implemented in the organization that is derived from the legitimate authority of the manager. Bureaucratic controls would include examples such as requiring daily reports on progress or inventory reconciliations. It could include establishing sales revenues, projections, and implementing reward systems around this metric. It would include establishing protocols that is important, having protocols regarding the safety of heavy equipment operation or floor manufacturing at a factory, for example. So another type of control is market control. It is the use of external information to serve as a standard or metric against which to ensure or which to measure internal progress. So most of the time, the market control is dependent on the external factors that's affecting the production or the function of the organization. So consider the following example. The marketing firm of an organization has designed a new product and the goal is to garner 15% market penetration in the first year. Prior to launching the product, they decide to bring in a consumer focused group to provide feedback on the design. This feedback compels the team to make some minor tweaks prior to product launch. This team has used an external element, that being the opinions of consumers, to make sure they progress towards their goal of a successful launch. Finance and trading organizations regularly use external controls around which to make decisions on which asset to divest and in which asset to invest. So this would include a trading strategy that establishes a standard that if the price of oil falls 25%, for example, the company should liquidate their position in commodities to minimize losses. So another type of control is the clan control. Okay, this consists of any form of informal influence that an organization has on an individual that directs them toward the goals of the organization. Clan control can derive from cultural values and beliefs of the organization, which we cannot avoid. No, there are organizations with heterogeneous culture. Now, it may actually influence the behavior of an individual in the organization. Clan control can also be more a direct influence in the form of peer pressure. Consider the example of an organization that places high value on integrity. Jane is an accounting professional within the organization that refuses to violate a small section of the tax code in an area where the language of the tax code is gray. She decides to act on the conservative side and behave with integrity because she knows that her decision aligns with the personal values of her team leader. And if her integrity were questioned, she would be less esteemed by her peers. One final note on clan control is that it can wield either a positive or a negative influence on members of the organization, because this is actually what individual differences, no? So sometimes you cannot please everybody, but in adhering to the organization's integrity or honesty or attitudes and values that it may have. So clan control will direct the differences in behavior or in attitudes, no? Okay, in adhering to only one specific what value in the organization. Okay. What if there's too much control? There is a final aspect of the control process that needs to be explored. At what point does a manager put too many control mechanisms in place? There is a range of control mechanisms that can be used. Too few, and the manager would not be successfully monitoring or guiding progress. Too many, and the employees will feel like they are being micromanaged. Research shows that a manager that uses too few controls limits creativity, innovation, and organizational learning. This makes sense if the manager's main role is guiding the progress. Members of the organization do not have the guidance and feedback that foster these ideals. A manager that puts too many control processes in place exposes the organization to lower levels of commitment, higher turnover, and more job stress among members of the organization. So to conclude, let us now take a look at the significance of managerial functions to community development. The important managerial functions are planning, organizing, directing, staffing, leading, and controlling. These functions have proven to be beneficial to the members in performing their duties well and in leading to effective growth and development of the organizations. Some of the benefits of managerial functions are development of mutual understanding among members, formation of positive viewpoints, providing equal rights and opportunities, not discriminating against anybody, augmenting work ethics and competencies, achievement of organizational goals in a suitable manner, promoting benevolence, leading to upgradation of training and development programs, and making use of technical and pioneering methods in the implementation of tasks and functions and in leading the development of the organizational structure as a whole. And these are some of the references I used. Thank you, everyone. God bless.